show, and I am Alison Arngrim. Okay, a lot of you probably remember me as Evil Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie, but tonight, luckily, I am Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And here in the Alison Arngrim Show, we like to talk about things that make us feel good. The TV shows and the movies that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And oh, do I have someone who is in all of these categories? I'm so excited. I am so excited. Yes, you know her from Heart to Heart, multiply Emmy Award nominated. And I remember when she was the girl from Uncle. What? No. Yes. And of course, the founder of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. I'd like to introduce fabulous actress, activist, and having spoken to her for a few minutes before the show, possibly the smartest person in the world. Yes, Stefanie Powers. How are you?
Well, that's a very nice introduction, Alice. Thank you very much. Yes. But you are also a polyglot, you're multiple languages, and we were just speaking in French, and it was lovely.
But she has me beat by 5. I mean, as I said, I had seen the rumor that you spoke 6 languages, and I was like, is this trivia or is this a thing? Is this true? And you literally do speak 6 languages fluently.
Polish was my first language.
That one, okay.
And, a few years ago, when we had a Polish Pope, I had the great set of circumstances that all fit together. Excuse me, that's my new dog. New dog. Well, Linda, come here. She was going to be executed 2 days after I rescued her.
Just in time.
She's only been here about a couple of weeks now, and she just has taken over. She wants to protect everybody. If she hears a little voice or, God forbid, some dog barks somewhere in the neighborhood, she's off. She's going to protect me. So she's only a year old, so she has a lot to learn. And
that's a baby. How many dogs you have now?
I have 5 here.
5 here. And then you said 4. Did you say 14 horses earlier?
Yes, the horses that I have around the world. I used to play polo a great deal. And so I had quite a lot of horses in England. I'm left with only 3 horses here.
Only 3 horses.
And then I have 7 out of the original 12 that I had in England. And then in Kenya I have 5. So we're it's a skeleton crew.
I will never complain about dealing with 2 cats as being hard ever. Right. So you were talking about Polish and speaking Polish and the Pope.
Yes. So I had this absolutely stunning opportunity to meet the Pope. I was late because my airplane landed late. And I couldn't get to the public or the more public reception in the summertime that he does. So because of my Polish heritage and my connection with the Father Sokołowski, who was the head of the Polish house, the Polish home in Rome at the time, he arranged that I should go and with a group of Polish pilgrims to Castello Gandolfo, where, can you believe it, I had Mass from the hand of the Pope. And I was determined to speak to him in Polish afterward, when there were photographs being taken and he gave me a rosary and all of that. And I had a speech all prepared and I spoke to him in Polish, and the photographs show that we were having a conversation. He spoke to me in English and I don't remember a thing he said. So it came in handy, and yet I was so besotted with the idea of speaking to our Pope in Polish that I completely lost the plot. I'm
sure he noticed. I'm sure he went back and went, oh, Stefanie Powers was here, the movie star. You know, she spoke in Polish. I'm sure he was thrilled.
But he did know. He had been an actor in his life.
That's right. That's right.
He was very well aware of who was in on television or who had any Polish heritage. So that was a big treat. What an extraordinary opportunity that was.
Well, now I'm amazed to find out which shows are popular in Europe and who knows what. And Heart to Heart's really big in France. You knew that. Did you know that?
I did, yes. I was married to a Frenchman, so I lived in France for about 10 years with him in Burgundy. And
Hmm.
everybody in the area felt that they had known me for their entire lives because, of course, we came into their home on Sunday nights when the show was on, after the whole family had been together and had their Sunday dinner and all of that. And they would sit in front of the telly and watch Heart to Heart.
Was it Amour de Risque?
Pour l'amour de risque.
Amour de Risque. I had French friends in town, and I have a friend who's a tour guide. And in fact, he and I had been doing a tour of like Hollywood homes. And I said, guys, I can have him do a secret tour to get any place you want to see. So he, not knowing anything about the French, he's rattling off all these celebrity homes, star of this, star of that. And he keeps mentioning movies, and they were fairly young French people too. And they were saying, no, we don't know that one. He's like, you don't know that one. It's a celebrity. Nope, no idea who that is. You don't know who that is. TV shows don't know. And finally he says, the house from Heart to Heart. And they went, oh, more to risk. Yes, of course. And we went to the Heart that they were excited about. And he's like, I give up with the Heart to Heart. And then Alfred Hitchcock's house. These were like the two things they're most excited about. We were like, gaga. But La Petite Maison dans la Prairie, of course, is
But
on regularly as well.
you
So
absolutely never know who connects with you. For example, Wicked is one of the biggest hits of the season. It is directed by a man called John Chu. He gave an interview to the Hollywood Reporter the other day, and talked about how his family was terribly concerned about as immigrants coming to the United States and becoming really American. And so they used to watch certain shows on television that they thought represented a real American relationship. And not only did they watch Heart to Heart, but they called their children Jonathan and Jennifer.
no. Oh my God.
So John Chu is really Jonathan, and his sister is Jennifer Chu.
I
Isn't
think
that
that, well, I mean, not many people name their children Nellie. They name them Laura. They name them Mary. They never name them Nellie. But I mean, that would sort of freak me out a little bit.
well, it's horrible? And somebody a mutual friend told him that I had read that and that I would be very happy to meet him. And he was very excited. He was going to call his sister, and we were going to try and find a time to meet.
Oh, I'll bet. I mean, we do not know the influence we have. That's the thing. It says movies, you're a movie star, but TV, you're right there. You're in the living room with them. You're in their home. And it's a completely different relationship.
Well, today it's all very different, as you know, with streaming services and all. People are not quite as connected, I think, to the things they see on television as they once were when Little House on the Prairie was showing, when Heart to Heart was showing, because there was ABC, NBC, and CBS.
As it? That's
That was it. And so you had very little choice, and you became extremely involved in the lives and in the personal relationships that you had with the shows that the family watched, that you watched through those years when you could connect to people because they were on and in your home every week.
right, right. And it was a sort of a thing. And we get a lot of people with this now with Little House. They watch shows with their family. So we get people now say, well, when I was younger, I watched your show with my mom or with my grandmother. And this is how I remember them by watching the show again because I have this connection with that person. It's a really fascinating phenomenon.
It's very nostalgic for them to recall these shows because they meant so much to the families they were growing up in. I'm
Well,
I'm a little bit the victim of that myself because I watch all the streaming shows, and if just to find out what's going on and all, if I find a group of actors that I think are really good and they did their roles extremely well, suddenly the show goes off the air or doesn't come back for another year or so or a
yeah.
season, and you forget all about them, and then you never see them again
Yeah,
because they've been replaced.
And it drives me crazy because with, yeah, of the old TV shows, they would buy a block of 26 episodes. You knew you were getting that much. But now the streaming shows, well, we're doing 8 episodes, we're doing 9 episodes, we're doing this. And then our second season isn't for 3 years. And they drive me mad. Cause like I was waiting for this. I was ready. I was on board. I was going to do the second season. And they know you have to wait to see the next thing.
Well,
And it's very different. It's so
I
different.
mean, that's really part and parcel of why it is that I think we still have such a lovely following, that there are great loyal fans that thank God bless them for them, because my loyal fans, I have a great deal to thank them for, because they have been, such great contributors to the work of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation,
Incredible.
all because of this wonderful connection with Heart to Heart and other shows, but also with Heart to Heart.
Now, I do have to tell you that I'm going to be talking about this whole thing with this award and this book and this things that are happening because of your work you've done. But when I was a tiny little girl, indeed, we would say, oh, man from Uncle, and then the girl from Uncle. And you realize, of course, now looking back, it's obvious that at that time period, to begin to have female superheroes, as it were. I watched Honey West when I was really little. It was just like thrilled to pieces. That in the 60s, when you started to have, it was, all the guys, James Bond and the Man from Uncle and Superman and Batman. And then you started to have the Batgirl and the girl from Uncle. And you started to have the women riding the motorcycle and catching the bad guys. Although I think you had a guy, you weren't allowed to kill any bad guys because you were the girl from like some weird thing. But for a young girl to see that, it was a very big deal at the time.
Well, very interestingly enough, I didn't realize that. I was under contract to Columbia Pictures. I had done motion pictures. I wasn't allowed to do television according to the contract. And then they sold me. They sold me.
Yeah.
They sold my contract to MGM
Right.
for the girl from Uncle, specifically for the girl from Uncle.
Just for that.
In those days, nobody really, people didn't publicize things in the same way that they do now. And I never realized until a few years ago that when somebody called me to say, would you be in this show that PBS is doing? It's about the pioneers of television. And I said, well, I'm hardly a pioneer. And they said, oh, no. The Girl from Uncle was the first hour-long television series starring a woman. Now, we never, ever, I wasn't aware of that when we were doing the show. I was never made aware of that, and it wasn't publicized. That's how different the times were.
And it was,
But I
and then of course
feel,
the being sold thing nowadays, we actors, we talk about going, wanting to get a part, but in the studio system, and you were one of the studio system people. You started so young. People don't realize you were told, oh, you're doing this picture now, and now you've been sold, and you'll be doing this show. And it wasn't like, but what if I don't want to? That's
no, 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 no. There was none of that. No. You were owned by the studio, groomed by the studio. It was the last part of the star system, the Hollywood star system, for which Hollywood became famous. And there, a great deal of the training that one got under that system was like a finishing school, but a finishing school as a professional, so that you would be prepared to speak in public, you would be prepared to be a good representation of the studio, a representative of the products that they were making, a representative of the studio. So it was a very different responsibility, and you were expected to rise to the occasion. Today, none of that exists. It's a kind of free form. So you get a role, you see people, and that very much display in their personal lives behavior or candor, maybe I should say, that's not, certainly would never have been allowed
Right.
during the studio system.
And people are sort of left to their own device. I mean, maybe they have a manager helps, but there's people who will say, well, I'd like to say the right thing in an interview, but that they just kind of go, off you go and fling you with the mic. And hopefully maybe they have a manager, an agent who says, do you want to know what to say? It's chaos. Now, I think a lot of the stuff now with like Nickelodeon and Disney, the young kids, they have a system where it's like, and now you're putting out an album, and now you're doing this, and here's what we're doing with you. But yeah, the studio system is incomprehensible to people now. I mean, the advantages were they did give you opportunity to get, there was acting classes and dance class. There was training. There was free training you could get and public speaking training as opposed to that. But you also, the thing of like, and you're prisoner,
I'm sorry, I lost you there.
sort of kind of a prisoner, just a little bit. I mean, that's the other problem. I mean, you got all the training, but then you had no choice in things.
Well, not really, no. But at the same time, think of all of the advantages over being a free agent.
And in your case, you got sold into a great show. I mean, talk about got lucky, girl from Uncle. But it was marvelous, and for a child who was watching all the shows and the Batman, the Superman, the shows and the Men from Uncle, and enjoying those, and I loved David McCallum. But then suddenly there's a girl, like she's doing it, and like I said, Honey West, it was fantastic. I was enthralled, and I loved that show. And so yeah, that's just really, thank you for that. I loved that show when I was a kid. I was totally into it. So there you are.
Well, I'm actually thrilled because it's wonderful to know that there was some positive impression. Uh, we don't get the kind of feedback that you get in a theater, which I work in quite a lot, where you get that immediate response that you know whether or not what you were working for was actually registering with the audience. But when in later years, when hears about the impressions that were made over the work that you did, I'm really thrilled to have had a positive impact and to know
Well,
that.
you you truly did. Oh, the
I
dogs
know.
had it.
No, no, go on out. There they go. They're going to chase some imaginary thing.
There's so many things you do now. The William Holden Wildlife Foundation. I've known about that, but now there is a huge thing happening. I'm reading about the permanent mission of Monaco to the United Nations, which I was just in Monaco in June with the whole Little House. The television, they have a fabulous television festival in Monte Carlo every year, and I'd gone a couple times, and this time with Castle Little House. So I've been to Monaco. I did not know there was a permanent mission of Monaco, the United Nations, and they are honoring you and the whole William Holden Wildlife Foundation with the 2024 Agents of Change Awards. Plus, there is a book, Visions of the for the Future, which is capturing inspiring stories from leaders and change makers, and you're in that as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
This is
Finally, the dogs are be okay. Yes,
so. Explain this thing about the mission of Monaco to the United Nations and this whole honor from the United Nations. I mean, this is fantastic.
well, it's a wonderful effort because the ebook, which is available now, Vision for the Future, uh, it highlights the work of about 25 people, and I'm very flattered to be among that group. Our work doesn't cross over, although sometimes in the humanitarian ways it does. But each one of the people that are highlighted have spent a great deal of time and have been devoted to the causes have um, that they have fostered and that they have husbanded through its infancy into its fruition. And that's kind of the reason for this, because the person that organized it under the auspices of the UN and the mission from Monaco is devoted to service and devoted to people's histories of service to the greater cause. In our case, it's the preservation of flora and fauna, and the William Holden Wildlife Foundation is named as such to carry on some of the work that William Holden did. He was my life partner for the last 10 years of his life. And he was a visionary in wildlife conservation long before the word conservation was even in popular use or
Oh yeah,
even
this was way before people were talking about this. And now everyone talks, oh yes, various wildlife funds. You were doing this and he was doing this long before this was a quote popular thing to be doing. No
well, he
one was, people were doing this.
was doing it way before me. He created the first game ranch for the preservation of species in
Right.
1959, if you can
No,
imagine.
in 1959, people were rushing over there to go shoot things and hunt them. Who was creating a game ranch to save animals in 1959?
So what he had always wanted to do and didn't unfortunately live to actually bring to fruition was his idea of creating a wildlife conservation uh, um, uh, education center for local people,
Hmm.
so that the local people could understand and learn what the biodiversity was in their backyard and its value not only to them, but now as they're understanding it, to world climate, to all sorts of qualities of life for the planet. And we have about 11,000 students a year coming through our education center and have done since 1982. So we received our IRS status
Mhm.
as a public charity, which I formed after Bill's death, specifically to build the education center he had envisioned that would carry on the work from a very grassroots level. So can you imagine all of these people who have 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 passed through the portals of the
Wow.
William Holden Wildlife Education Center? We have an outreach program that deals with people in extreme, sometimes in extreme poverty and sometimes in extreme rural settings, who have no way of actually seeing or understanding the environment that they actually live in.
Right.
And
That's the thing people don't think of. I mean, yes, we Westerners go on safaris and photo safaris to these places, but the people who actually live there are busy getting through the day and aren't out going, oh, look at the majestic rhinoceros. That's not a thing. So
that's right.
this is a whole new no concept.
When you can't just say don't cut down that tree when you need some firewood.
Yeah.
So it's a ongoing battle that mankind against nature has been conducting for millions of years. Human beings, from the time human beings stood up, they have been conquering the natural world and trying to have the natural world submit to human needs.
Well,
Now
to
we
everything.
understand,
Yeah. Yeah.
but to bring it full circle now, we understand that our overexploitation of the planet is putting a time bomb in our laps. And it's very much something we should all be concerned about and participating in. It's not just over there. It's not just their problem and that else is doing something about it. We have to express our own concern by even something as simple as buying clothes that are biodegradable, because some of the clothes we buy and throw away are not biodegradable. They're made out of petroleum products and they will be in that landfill
Forever.
forever.
Forever and ever.
That is
We
not going to help preserve this planet.
it's everything we do has an impact on the environment. I mean, it literally, I mean, okay, if you're breathing, yes, you are taking in the oxygen. If you exist, you're going to need to eat, you're going to consume water, you're going to consume resources, but to become aware of what resources you consume, of how much you don't necessarily need to consume, how you can, moderate that and say, well, how much of this do I actually need? How, as they say, a carbon footprint, how gigantic or small does that need to be? Um, I was reading that part of this project is also dealing with the problem of when people are trying to farm that the ground becomes unfarmable, fertilization, the ground is not fertile, that there's a project about sort of reclaiming land, sort of making the very earth itself reusable so that people can farm and raise food in land they would have had to just walk away from.
What, yeah, yes, and all of that. But let me synopsize it for you. So, over exploitation of land which may not have been suitable for farming, but became productive simply and utterly by the use of chemicals,
Mm.
gets burnt out very
Yep.
quickly. When that land is burned out and it's no longer producing, and people then have to go to another piece of land and exploit that again, you are losing the environment. We're losing biodiversity. We're over exploiting natural resources that we depend on to produce that oxygen that we breathe, and to have habitat for living things of all kinds, whether it's bugs or bees or the larger or elephants. They all serve a purpose, and they all deserve to be able to cohabit with us instead of us taking everything so they can no longer exist, which ultimately makes it impossible for us to exist. All of that working together is part of everything we teach at the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, and our new venture, which has to do with the second part of our mission statement, which our mission statement is wildlife conservation through education and alternatives to habitat destruction. So in that light, we are teaching, and we have 7 projects where we have soil regeneration as the basis of regenerative farming. So our soil regenerative techniques are able to turn over pieces of land very rapidly, in some cases and in most cases within one growing season.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's crucial for the people we're dealing with, because we're dealing with small landholders who have maybe an acre, no more than 10 acres, to cultivate in order to either have subsistence farming or something that they can also sell to support their families. That's part of the whole ecosystem. It must be dealt with holistically. It's not just having an e-car. It's not just having an electric car that you plug in to electricity that is produced by an electrical grid, which is powered by what?
It
Coal.
still has to come from somewhere. Yes, it's exactly.
So we go back to, because we're dealing with people who are very much land-based and very much dependent on the land and on the environment for their own survival. They have to understand that that survival has to be curated, has to be cultivated not just to produce food, but cultivated to be able to continue to have a planet and to have an environment that is going to be productive. All of that works in harmony with the preservation of the biosphere, the preservation of the natural species.
So not only is this obviously is it preventing an enormous loss of that land, which becomes practically desert if it's nobody's it's can't grow anything, and is bad for the habitat for the animals as well, as if they can't live there. But isn't it also then beneficial to the people living there? Because if their previous setup was to farm the land till it's dead and then move on, that's, I would think, would keep one in a cycle of poverty. You wouldn't really be able to amass anything because you're constantly starting over, and the land's no good, as you said, to begin with half the time without the, that being able then to get this re-energize this land and show them how to do it within growing seasons, you said, then they can, people would be able to stay longer in one place. Would not their farm then increase? Would not then the amount of food they could sell or feed their family be enormously
Well,
increased?
there are yes, of course, yes to all of the above. Let me just take it piece by piece. Desertification, what you're talking about, has increased not exponentially with the population, but it has increased, it has run away all over
Yes.
the planet. It's obviously visible in the Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
where the level of topsoil is so fragile and so minimal that when they cut down what looks as if it's this amazingly productive and amazingly healthy jungle, they don't realize that what they've done is that they've exposed the earth and the topsoil to light and to heat that it's never been exposed to, and therefore it dries up very quickly and it eventually becomes unproductive. That the primary grasslands, etc., that they claim that they need to exploit the rainforest for begins to dry up and turn into dust. That is part and parcel the reason that we need to preserve and re-establish, sort of recreate what nature gave us. It takes about 1,000 years to produce or naturally produce 1 inch of topsoil, to give you an idea. So it means we need to accelerate that process. We need to participate in the reestablishment of all of the natural gifts the planet has given us that we've overexploited. And we need to do it quickly. We need to do it now. And we need to be joined together in this effort so that we're not just exploiting everything in our grasp, but we are giving back, and we are seeing that if you have to cut that tree down, that you plant 2 or 3 in its place. Because if we cannot recapture or in some ways restore some of that which we have exploited, we are doomed, and very quickly. And I know that this is bad news and not the news for an entertainment show, but it is a message that we need not to forget. We need to get up off our sofas and off of our chairs and actually get into the fight. Because if we don't join in this, why are you having children? Why are you looking at a future which is not going to be there for anybody? We're going to look at AI running the whole everything. So if AI is going to replace us, AI is then going to what? Tackle this problem because we human beings don't seem to be smart enough to do that. We're soiling our own nest. We've already done that time and time again since the Industrial Revolution. Now we have to turn it around, and we have to do it by all of us participating in one way or another.
And see, this is marvelous because some people at least have the sense to talk about air and yes, water. Most people don't think about things like topsoil. People started to talk about the problem with bees. There not being enough biodiversity, and that the bees are dropping in population of bees, which of course means things don't get pollinated. And then, hey, what do we eat? But you don't hear people talking about topsoil, which is so incredibly fragile. And people don't realize that it's that literally that top inch is what makes soil what we think of as soil. And that if you plan to grow food anywhere, you cannot destroy all of the topsoil and walk away, and that destroying topsoil will kill you, just as completely polluting the air and water will. And people don't talk about that. They don't realize how important the topsoil is.
It needs to be, we need to learn how to reproduce. And that's what our project does. It reestablishes the biome that is either dormant or has been destroyed, and in so doing, it begins after a great deal of curation. It begins to reestablish itself so it can stand on its own, and it will reproduce itself. But it needs a great deal of care in the very beginnings. But it is possible to turn over some of this land rapidly, which is, of course, in the third world, which is really the majority of the planet. They need to eat now. They can't wait for 3 years and let something else happen. They need alternatives to everything that is being destroyed around them that they don't realize they've participated in.
But I love what you're talking about, that you can't just go in and say, well, we're just going to fix this here. Right. What do we do about next week's crop and the food we were planning on eating? Oh, well, you'll just go off and figure that one out. We're going to fix this, and you are just like a byproduct of this. That you're saying, no, you live here. How do we keep the people who are actually here alive and the animals and that you're working with the people who are living there to say, how do we make this happen? How do we make this good for you, good for us? Here's what's going on that no one is telling you. You're living there and wondering why your farm's not going anywhere. And here's what's actually happening. Here's how you're saving these animals will in fact benefit you and your family and your neighbors. You're working with the population and with their society and saving the outside elements, the animals and the entire environment around them.
Well, that's what we're hoping to do. Yes, it's a daily job. I've got a wonderful staff there. I'm there half the year, and we have a loyal following. If you can imagine, 11,000 students a year.
That's a lot.
Loyal. We're meeting a demand that's ever increasing. So this today is Giving Tuesday, and we're hoping to inspire people to look at our website, look at the work we're doing, and hopefully help us. And
well, that would be the obvious thing is how can people help? Give us the website, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes and everything.
It's the acronym. The website is the acronym of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. It's WHWF.org, and everything you wanted to know about what we do and what William Holden did and what I did and what we did together is right there.
It's fantastic. And so people can donate, like right now, for watching this, they can donate because I don't think they know about this other project that you're doing and why you're getting this award. I think they think of simply, oh, the Wildlife Foundation, wildlife. They're not thinking about people, topsoil, everything else.
Well, it states very well what we're doing, and
Excellent.
we posted today some options for people to easily be able to understand how they can contribute and what their money does. Many organizations take people's money, and a lot of it goes in overhead.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that because I've seen it all over the world. Our organization works differently. It works differently because there is one person who covers all the overheads of the operations so that I can absolutely look at you, even through Zoom, and look at you in the eye and say that 100% of what you give me and you trust me goes to the work we do. 100%.
No one can say 100%. Even people who are very smart and say, well, we've reduced our overhead. We don't have any extraneous, unnecessary expenses, can say 90 cents on the dollar, which is astounding if people can say that they can say we can give 90 cents, but 100%, your expenses are covered. 100%. I feel like I'm doing a telethon now. I want to. 100% of donations go directly to the work.
Yep, it does. And I can say that with a great authority because I'm the one who pays everything else.
See, and this is when people say, do put your money where your mouth is. To put it mildly, you did.
I did, yes.
You did. I don't know very many people who've done that.
Well, I recommend it.
And you live in Kenya part of the year. Would you say you live in Kenya more often than in the U.S.? Where are you usually?
I'm about 50-50. And then, of course, I sometimes work. So, and I work a lot in the theater in England. So once in a while I do a play or a television show or something in England, which is very convenient because it's quite close. It only takes me an overnight trip to get to England from Kenya. So that's very convenient.
You can commute.
I can, yes, overnight.
That's fantastic. You're saying that at this point you actually have dual citizenship with Kenya?
Not citizenship.
Not dual citizenship. Residency. You're now full-time residency, right? Because you're there half the year. You would have to do that.
Yes, I'm a dual resident.
Wow, that's fantastic. This is absolutely, I see why you're getting this. Now, where can we get this book, The Vision for the Future book? Because it also has the founders, Kerry Kennedy, founder of the John F. Kennedy Human Rights, Eddie Bergman, co-founder of Miracle Corners of the World. I mean, it's all people who've done amazing, amazing stuff. Where do we get the book?
It's
Vision for the
online.
Future. It's
It's
online.
it's free and it's online.
It's
And
free.
it's a vision for the future.
Is it,
That's
if I go on Amazon, can I locate it there and download it, or
no, just go on Google
just
and
Google
type
Vision for the
in
Future and there's its own website?
vision for the future.
So we can get that now. Do you have your own book? You have your own book that you've written at some point, did you?
I did.
Yes, good.
I wrote a
Can we get
book.
that?
It was a little while ago. It was after some major events had happened in my life, and it was very much a catharsis to write about things that had transpired. It's always a very personal experience to sit down and actually try to write and inspire people through telling your own tales. Hopefully, it was amusing as well, because a lot of life is funny, and I don't take myself as seriously in some regards as I do take the work of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation.
Right. Now, is that book still out there?
Yes, it
Is it
is.
still
You
available?
can still
Yes.
get it.
Good.
You can still get it on Amazon. It's called One from the Heart.
One for the Heart. Excellent. Do you think you'll write a second book?
I've been asked to, but oh boy, it's hard work. It's really hard work. And I wrote it myself. I didn't have a co-author.
I know the people keep saying, "Are you writing a second book?" And I'm like, because that's lots of work. What
Oh,
would you
it's
say to
really hard
people
work.
who are watching this now? What would you say to people watching this now? I mean, besides write a check immediately, go to the website, hike the credit card, hit the button. What would you say to people watching this now who are realizing all of these things and saying, this is incredible? And yes, I mean, our clock is ticking environmentally. What would you say to people right now that what they can start doing today that will actually help, will not just be an empty gesture? What can people start doing
What for us?
for the
Or
environment in general?
oh well, be more thoughtful about what you're disposing of and where it goes, and because all of your plastics are going into the sea eventually, and you're going if you eat fish, you're probably going to eat some of that plastic back,
That's
which
happening now. They're finding microplastics in
yes,
food.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
That's not coming from the sky. That's coming from us, from human beings. So I think the first thing that you can do is look at what you're eating and what you're consuming and what you're buying, and try to take your own bags to the market. Try to just use common sense and amend some of the ways in which you behave, and the resources that you use and purchase. Especially the young ladies, for anybody who's listening, please look at the labels of what you buy. I know that it's nice to have new dresses and cheap new dresses that look good and then you can throw them away. They're not going anywhere. They're
Hmm.
going to be there because those miracle so-called fabrics that are cheap to produce are byproducts of the petroleum industry. Is that what you want on your body? Is that really healthy to have on your body? Well, spandex and this and everything, you really look and be conscious of what you're buying. This is a bizarre thing to mention, but it was a horrible thing that happened in the Balkan War. They killed a lot of people and put them in mass graves. Last year, when I was in England, they dug up one of those massive graves, and they were doing a documentary about it, and it was on the BBC. And what I was astonished about was that, yes, of course, when they showed the trenches that they have
Hmm.
excavated, the bodies had decomposed, of course, but the clothing had not.
Oh my God.
And the sports shoes were intact.
Ugh.
So imagine that. It's not a pretty picture, but that's what we do. We produce these horrible things that we buy without thinking about what's the responsibility, where does it go, and how is it going to be disposed of.
Now, we talk about recycling. Everyone has a recycling bin, and people take their metal and their glass and their plastics, some of them, to be recycled. How much of that works? I know there are places that claim they're doing recycling, and then you find out that they dumped it in the landfill, or they say, well, we can recycle, but only certain items. And some things aren't recyclable. What do we do with that?
One of the things I really would suggest, and I think that one of the things I'm very disappointed that Apple as a company continually comes out with brand new products for which you have to buy all these accessories because they always change the cores, they always change the but they do not recycle. They do
It's a
not.
lot of stuff.
They don't say, all right, you bring in your old stuff that I am now making obsolete because I want you to buy this new stuff and we will dispose of it.
That would make sense. There's places that do that. You can bring in your old thing and they will take it back. Printers. I can take my old printer back to the store and they'll take the printer and the printer
You have
cartridges
to
off.
let someone in.
Oh, yes.
Hello. Okay, 1 minute. Sorry.
Right. I mean, I can take my printer cartridges from a printer. If I take them to the store, they send them back and they will attempt to recycle, at least in some form, the printer cartridges. They don't just go in the trash can. So there are companies that take stuff back. So why can they not do that? You would think that
But
Apple would.
actually, also, some of the sports shoe manufacturers, Jordan, what was it? There were two of the companies that used to make a lot of money with basketball players
Yeah.
wearing their shoe. There are certain companies now that are making those shoes that are most of the components for making those shoes are biodegradable because they've had pressure from the consumers. So all we have to do is put pressure on all of these companies that are making everything we have obsolete in order to make more money by us buying more stuff. If we're going to do that, if we're going to buy all the new products from Apple, fine, but make sure that we demand that they recycle all of the old stuff that they've made obsolete.
Yeah, have us bring it in. We'll drop it in the bin at your store. We'll bring it in. But please, yes.
But
The
make
other
them
companies are doing
responsible
it. It's
for
physically
recycling.
possible. We know. Other companies have done it. We know it can be done.
Absolutely. But we have to demand it as consumers. Because all of these follow the money. All of these companies are only out for profits. They don't care about you, the consumer. So if we, the consumer, says, not going to buy your products until you commit to recycling the ones that I have that you made obsolete. That's a good idea, isn't it?
That seems a rather simple request, too. I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Well, I'll start a movement.
All right. Well,
Sign a petition.
but this is just amazing. What is your next project? Is there a next project on top of all of these? What would you say was the next thing for you?
Well, right now we are. I'm working with a number of universities so that we can have overseas students, overseas master's degree candidates, and PhD candidates come and study with us our methods of soil regeneration, and hopefully we will be able to, out of their studies, create a protocol that kind of establishes how you actually do it, how it can be done in most cases. Do you remember when everything came out and everything was supposed to be organic? And
Yes.
all of a sudden it wasn't just organic food, it was organic hairspray, organic shampoo, but there was no proof. There
Oh,
was
they just put that on the label. They just put it on the label.
But they would say, okay, it's made of avocados, or there's something natural in it. But to actually have a protocol where you say, this is how you've proven that this is absolutely organic, or that this is absolutely soil regeneration. So we want to create that
A standard.
criteria, and we want to create the protocol for that.
And
That's
that way
it.
it can be
That,
taken all over the world. It can be these students can then take this and recreate this process all over the world.
that's the hope. Yes, that's the hope. It's not some information that we want to guard for ourselves and monetize somehow. We want it to go out and we want people to embrace it.
All right. Okay. So if they want to read about you, where is your website?
WHWF.org.
All right. So everyone go there now. And, it's Christmas. Maybe you could give, in somebody's name, as their Christmas gift. I'm thinking this could be a good gift. And thank you. You are amazing. I'm still going with it. You may be the smartest person in the world. So Stefanie Powers, yes, girl from Uncle Heart Tart and smartest person in the world. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I'm going to have you come back. This has just been delightful.
Thank you, Alice. It's lovely to see you.
All right. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your reward. So thank you.
Thank you.
And this has been the Alison Arngrim Show. And yep, I'm still Alison Arngrim. Thank you.